Hi everyone, welcome to another Hangout. This time my guest is Luca Massaro, Managing Director of We Play. At We Play, he has already worked with some very special brands, with MoneyGram, with UEFA, with Sportlobster, Fox Sports, Heineken, amongst others. And as a former head of social media at Target Media, Luca has already worked with brands also such as Samsung, Adobe, Konami, and Universal Pictures. Today we are going to talk about digital brand activation at sports events. So I believe it will be a very, very good hangout, and Luca will share some great insights with us. Luca, welcome to this hangout.
Thank you very much, Marcus, for inviting me into this, and hello to everybody watching. I hope this is going to be entertaining for you all. Fire away any of your questions after we've gone through the questions that Marcus has. I look forward to answering them.
That is great. And Luca, maybe I can ask you, why have you decided to work digital in sport? Because why do you think there is a need to professionalize this digital sports marketing area?
Why have I chosen to work in this area? Is that the question?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I'd say I wouldn't be doing anything in today's such an opportunistic landscape unless it was going to be lucrative. So number one, I guess because it's one of the fastest growing and one of the most lucrative from a financial perspective industries. And number two, because of the way that the technology and digital is evolving and the way in which sports fans are engaged with technology, with their audiences and with their favorite brands. The two and two pieced together, and it was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up.
That is great. Luca, I wanted to ask you if I believe maybe you have a window on your browser with this transmission live. So I would like to ask you to just mute that video. And in the meantime, for the people that are watching us, if you have questions for Luca, please post your questions at the comments section on the YouTube channel. So Luca, we are going to talk about events, and the question is, why sporting events are a great way to activate a brand's digital presence?
Good question. Why sporting events are great ways to activate digital? Well, I mean, there's a term that was used recently, actually, which was when the Premier League negotiated their TV rights. Richard Scudamore, the chief executive of the Premier League, came out with one statement, and he said, "Unscripted drama." And when he said this to the BBC, it explains everything. And what this means is effectively is that we know as sports fans why we love sport, and the brands effectively activating when they want to be reaching certain target audiences are looking where to spend their money. Most of them are looking at various different entertainment industries, whether it's music, whether it's film, whether it's fashion. Sport is just the way in which technology specifically, and the way in which the number of fans worldwide are paying attention to sport. It gives them a huge vertical to be able to reach audiences. And as a business, we're thriving at a time when all of these pieces are falling together at such a unique time where it's all coming together. The adoption of behavior, the adoption of technology are beginning to marry, and we're beginning to see that happening. So it's a huge opportunity for any brand, effectively, to be able to make their brand more exciting. Because what we know is that most brands are pretty dull and boring, right? Mm-hmm. And sport gives them an opportunity to tell stories and makes them that little bit more exciting.
Very, very important. And when we think about an event, we usually think about three stages. So the pre-event, the event itself, and the post-event. What do you think is the most important stage of an event? It's the pre, during the event, or the post-event. And I have an example for you. For instance, some football clubs now are really teasing each other during the pre-match the pre-match time, when, for instance, we have an example here of Barcelona and Bayern Munich that are playing today, and the clubs, both of the clubs, they were teasing each other about today's match. So what do you think it's really the most important moment to engage these fans? pre, during, or after the event?
It's all as important as each other. I don't think there's any specific time. It's the experience. You know, this is the fan experience. You know, to use an example, when I was at Chelsea, we used to look at things on a pre, during, and post schedule like that. And what we found on a Monday morning, we were all sat in the same room every Monday morning discussing what content are we going to create this week. And it was kind of a stupid meeting because it was basically, we knew that there was a game every week, and we knew that before the game we were going to have to do build-ups, we were going to have to do interviews with the manager. We knew that on the weekends, we knew that a lot of people would be visiting the site who couldn't watch the game, for the live chat, for the live streams. And we knew that on a Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, we was going to have to put in together match reports. And come Monday, there was going to be a lot of national press fallout that we have to deal with. So, you know, what we're seeing now is advanced forms of this, but what it is the cycle of the sports fans and the way that they engage with the media that your rights holders push out. I don't think there's any one important time. You know, fundamentally, the sports event, the actual game day, is the most important aspect, right? Because you're only as successful as your last result. So, should this evening's match become a 0-0, then, you know, the fallout tomorrow is going to be a tiny percentage of what it would be if it was a 4-4, right? And it becomes the most entertaining semi-final in Champions League history. So, you know, everything really comes down to the game itself, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I have a challenge for you. So imagine that you were briefed to activate the brand in the last fight between Mayweather and Pacquiao.
Sure.
So what were the steps that you would take to activate that brand? So step 1, step 2, and step 3, for instance.
Okay, so depending on what kind of sponsorship, is this a sponsor, or is this going to be a brand that's looking to ambush, right? First, we have to look at that, right? So is this we've done this previously with one of our clients, 888 Sport, who wanted to be noticed around Froch Groves, which was at Wembley last summer. And what they had was one of their competitors, Betway, who had spent a huge amount of money sponsoring the fight, right? So Betway were plastered all over the ring. It was Wembley Stadium. But our job was to try and disrupt. You know, this is the buzz term that's being used at the moment. So effectively, what we had to do was create as much content that we know that would filter through effectively Twitter. So we were using Vine and Twitter to create content that would disrupt in between rounds, right? So as people were watching the fight, watching some kind of illegal stream, or they were following it on social media, they would see our content. And our content was a lot of it was parody based stuff, right? So, you know, where you see a lot of taking memes and creating little stories between the two fighters and pushing that out via, you know, social media influencers. And these are your guys that can create viral trends and Twitter trends very quickly. So we're pushing out this content in that stream, and that was one way that we cut through the sponsor. And in the end, when one of the gaming company magazines, iGaming Business, did a documentation, their article was 888 Sport deliver knockout blow. And this was, you know, if you think that Betway had probably spent somewhere between 3 and 5 million sponsoring the fight, and 888 Sport spent nothing and got more coverage. So, you know, that's an example. You know, looking at Mayweather Pacquiao, I mean, I didn't think it needed any more coverage. You know, the fight itself, you wouldn't need an agency to start telling stories. You know, the fight itself has been built up for 5 years. So I think most people were a little bit hitting that anti-climax point where they were kind of bored of the whole build-up. And Mayweather himself is a kind of, he's an admired but not loved character. Pacquiao, on the other hand, is a little bit more loved, but then he's got what some people would say, he's got a lot of losses under his belt. So, you know, you try and tell stories there. Do you play Mayweather up as that kind of money aspirational type of guy? Do you play Pacquiao up as that he is the underdog? You know, you play with it in different stories, but it all comes down to fundamentally, what does the brand want to achieve in such a short window? Because after the fight, you know, you look at what was it, Tecate, the Mexican beer that sponsored the fight. I don't think anyone outside of the US or Mexico had ever heard of them. they know them now, but I don't think anybody's going out to try and buy a pint of Tecate outside of Mexico.
Yeah, well, it's very, very interesting that you were focusing your strategy on storytelling. And actually, one of the questions that I had for you, it's what's the importance of storytelling in content marketing?
It's a good question. I mean, go back to what I said earlier. I think there are two things to look at here. Number one is that businesses are boring. And number two is that generally marketers ruin everything. So what you kind of have to think about is businesses themselves are looking at new technologies to tell stories and to try and make themselves a little bit more excited, right? And fundamentally, this falls back on what's called the attention graph. And that's like, where are your audience? Where are they looking, right? And the attention graph is growing wider and wider every day, right? More and more apps and technologies are making it harder and harder for you to capture the attention of your audience. So everyone started talking a couple of years ago about big data and how they can look at all of the data that's out there and try and work out where your audience are and what they're doing. And then people came out of terms like predictive analytics and how can you predict the behaviors of your audience. And I think what we're realizing now is that you can have all the data in the world and you can have the best analysts, but you're still not going to be able to make something go viral, right? Fundamentally, you have to be able to create a connection with your audience. You have to tell a story and you have to create emotion, right? So our job is to try and make our clients whose businesses aren't generally that exciting, is to try and make them exciting. And to do that, we have to know what are the motivations and the behaviors of the people we want to connect with. What is it that's going to keep them engaged with us to stop them from, you know, how can we keep them from not playing Xbox, from not playing on Candy Crush? How can we keep them on our website or on our Facebook or on our Twitter and keep them engaged? So we have to create content that excites them. And if our brands don't have the ambition to do that, then there's not a lot we can do because a lot of them don't understand, I'd say. And there is an education piece that we have to go through as agencies to help our clients understand the shift and understand how to communicate with effectively what is today's and tomorrow's audience. So there are a lot of things at play.
Definitely, yeah, definitely. So imagine we are talking about storytelling. If you are going to put out a content marketing strategy, so step 1, step 2, and step 3. So what would you do to put out a content marketing strategy?
You're kind of asking me to give away all of our secrets here, right?
No, that was not the point.
You mentioned how this content is going to be on the internet forever, or anybody wanted to say, right, how do I put together a content marketing strategy? Let's watch that video. Okay, let's just give it away for free, you know, effectively, you can call it content marketing strategy. You know, I'll just call it a marketing strategy, right? Because marketing is digital, marketing is content, marketing is social now, right? There's most brands, they'll come to us and say, we need a social media strategy. And it's like, okay, but how does this strategy fit into your marketing strategy? And it's like, oh, you know, it doesn't, it's different. Well, you know, that's kind of stupid. So a content marketing strategy is based on giving value to your audience, right? Building long-term value to create what is called earned media value. And this generally comes from storytelling. So earned media is your shares, is your retweets, is your comments. It's your people writing blog articles about you. It's, you know, it's all of the coverage that a PR company will aim to get in a national press, but we tend to do it via social, and it comes out as earned media from your fans, right? So content marketing is, again, it's about taking something that may not be exciting and making it exciting. And brands, you know, the way to do that is effectively, we look at it on a ratio, right? So we would say that most brands are for the last, well, for as long as advertising and marketing have been around, brands have focused on push, right? Which is effectively any advertising, PPC, banner advertising, even email, to the point where before that, you know, that was eventually killed. It's push marketing. It's buy, right? It's we need you. We're asking you to buy from us. Now, what social is social is the complete opposite, right? Social is pull. So it's saying, okay, we realize that we can't get our audience to just click, click, click. We need to pull them closer. We need to give them value so that eventually further down the the journey or further down that conversion funnel, whatever you call it, they will click and they will buy from us. We look at it on a ratio. For every, you know, if you were going to put out 10 pieces of content, make 8 of them value driven and 2 of them make conversion driven. If you're going to put out 5 pieces of content, make 4 of them value driven and 1 of them conversion driven. So you put out an infographic, you put out a funny meme, you put out a banner saying, have a great weekend, guys. You know, you put out 4 pieces of non-conversion driven content. And then on the 5th, you say, hey guys, we've got a 20% special offer on some trainers. It's just for you. It's got a 24-hour window. Click here to activate that special offer, right? But you wouldn't put out 5 special offers back to back, right? Because that's just spamming your audience in a environment where they're looking for effectively, you know, they're not there for that.
Very, very great insights, Luca. So I have a graph here. So maybe we can say there is a balance between earned media, paid media, and owned media, right? Do you agree?
Sure. Let me see your graph.
Yeah. So owned media, we have a lot of control because we are communicating in our own channels.
Yep.
And actually what we want is to make this content a virus. So we want to earn the attention of the consumer and make them share our content. So to reach a lot of people, to reach more and more and more people, make them talk about our content.
Yep, correct. That looks good.
Yep. Do you agree?
I agree that the objective is to achieve, you know, in the short term, your objective is earned media. Your long-term objective is everything is for it to be owned, right? You know, there's only so much power you can keep giving to Facebook and to Twitter and all of that data before your business becomes completely redundant. So you have to have some kind of conversion funnel. And you look at social as a top-down activity where, okay, if earned media is at the top, and then you would say paid media is pushing that earned media down into owned media. So you need to you need to have an idea, you know, a roadmap that says, okay, you know, it might be 6 months, it might be 5 years, but within that 5-year window, we want to turn the 5 million people that we've analyzed that are not in our database, who are effectively the earned people that we need to get engaging with us. We need to get a percentage of them through our funnel into our database. You know, has to be the strategy. So however the bigger the size of your Venn diagram is, you know, there has to be an ROI attached to it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. We have a question here from Sandra Fernandes that focus on the post-event actions. So she asks, what's the best way to keep the consumer talking about the brand that was activated in one particular event? So the event has ended. So what now? What should the brand do to extend the success of this activation?
I mean, you can look at it on a huge scale or a small scale. A huge scale, you look at the Olympics, and the Olympics talk for
great example, Luca.
You know, the Olympics talk for a huge amount of time about the Olympic legacy, and what we noticed that the Olympic legacy died a week after the Olympics. You know, what they had the opportunity to do was to create a real kind of synergy between the stars of the Olympics and the rest of the British population, who were for a period of time believing that they would, you know, they would become the next Jessica Ennis or the next long jumper. I can't even remember his name now. That's because that's how important his legacy was, right? You know, you have certain stars that went on, like Anthony Joshua or Jess Ennis, right? But then a lot of the guys that performed well in the Olympics have gone on to nothing. And the you know, the sponsors of the Olympics, you know, you look at core sponsors like Adidas. What did they take from the Olympics, and what are they driving through the Olympics? You know, we saw them go from the Olympics straight into marketing, all in or nothing. You know, and this is, you know, and then they go from marketing Jess Ennis straight into Messi again. And it's where is that synergy, and what have Adidas benefited from that? I would say, you know, depending on the size of the event, you know, you'll look at a fight like a boxing fight, right? You've got a short window, and how much of an opportunity does a sponsor really want to carve out by sponsoring this event? You know, you see that the top tier sponsorship for that fight was, I think it's about $3 or $4 million, right? what is their long-term plan, right? And if they have a long-term plan, how are they now telling the story of their beer that's saying that, you know, we are the beer of boxing, right? And you saw some of the adverts that they did before. I don't know if you saw, they had Sylvester Stallone doing pieces to camera, and he was basically telling people, you need to man up and watch more boxing, and it was really entertaining stuff. But since then we've seen nothing, right? The fight's gone, and they had the opportunity to now drive forward with that, right? And it doesn't look like they've really looked at what is their long-term strategy. You know, to just give some examples, you know, we do a lot of stuff in taking data and creating content, right? So it's data into infographics, you know, it's data into animated GIFs, and it's looking at, okay, what can we create in the form of short form that drops straight into a Twitter feed, or in a long form that we can send out to an array of 50 of the biggest bloggers that get an editorial about how our campaign worked. They get a nice exclusive infographic that they can now put on their website, right? Pending how that goes, we would work with those bloggers to say, right, how successful was this piece of content? And the ones that had the most visits, the most content engagement, then we would look to do more with them to keep them telling our story. Gearing up to what we would hope, if we had a long-term sponsorship, which would then have multiple activations, we would be gearing up for a transition where we begin going from one event into starting the storytelling of another event, right? So we begin to say, you know, if Tecate were focusing on this boxing, you'd think maybe 48 hours after the fight, they would say, you know, Tecate will be back with the I don't know, Gennady Golovkin's middleweight bout coming up in the next month or something. And you might look like, okay, they're not just Mayweather Pacquiao, they're now involved in boxing full stop, right? So it all comes down to, a lot of it comes down to what is the ambition of the brand.
Yeah, definitely. I just wanted to remind people, if you have questions for Luca, please post your questions on the comment section on YouTube. Luca, just to finish this conversation about the content marketing part. So how can we measure success? What are for you the three most important KPIs? It's the impressions we get in the content, the interaction. So three KPIs that you consider are the most relevant. I know it depends of the objectives that you have.
Sure. Look, I mean,
of course, but generally, what are the three most important KPIs for you?
Look, I mean, our business and our tagline is turning communities into customers, right? What that looks like from a model is three segments. At the top is reach. Reach is your impressions. It is the number of people that can potentially see your content, right? Yeah. And this is where a PR agency generally lives. They live in the space that we can put out X amount of content in your magazine or in your national newspaper, and we will get X amount of eyeballs, right? Great. The next step for us is engage, right? Is how do we get those people into our environment, engaging with our product, right? Whether that is an iTunes store, downloading our app, whether that's onto our Facebook, liking, engaging, whether that's into a game, whether that's subscribing to a newsletter, etc. Right? Reach, engage. The third piece is convert, right? So how do we take that data? What do we do? Okay, once you've reached 10 million people and you say, right, of that 10 million, we want to engage, let's say 1%, right? So that's going to be, what's that? That's 100,000 people, right? We need 100,000 people of the 10 million people that we've reached to engage with us in all of our verticals. And of that, we need 1% of that. So we're going to say 1,000 people to effectively buy from us, right? So we need to work out, what is our buy strategy? Is it retargeting? Is it banner ads, right? How are we doing? Is it dropping we need to say, right, they're already on our website. We now need to drop a conversion pixel, a cookie, and we need to see what it is that they love about our game, what it is they love about our website, right? What are we doing with that data? So, you know, I won't say there are any three definitive metrics, you know, but there is the reach, engage, convert. That's for us. And in those you need the impressions, you need the eyeballs, you need the engagement, you need the data, and you need the revenue.
Yeah, for sure. So, real-time marketing, last topic that we have to talk about. So, real-time marketing. How is real-time marketing changing the way organizations and sports properties connect with the fans?
Sure. I mean, look. Firstly, what is real-time marketing? I think that needs that needs a definition itself. You know, I could say that it's capturing a moment in an organic and natural way. Real-time marketing is enhancing the experience whilst it's live. You know, what is real-time marketing? Real-time marketing for some brands is dropping a piece of content and becoming relevant for a short period of time and then going back into the wilderness. You know, it really depends. I'd say that fundamentally real-time marketing comes down to two things. First one is the timing and the relevancy, and the second is your resources. Now, a lot of brands say, hey, we want to do a lot of real-time marketing, but fundamentally they don't have the senior management who wants to be able to distribute any resource to real-time marketing. They don't have the team that are creative enough to come up with the content, and they don't have the bandwidth. They don't have the team in-house do not have the capabilities at the time to say, right, there is an event happening this weekend. Let's spend 4 hours in a room coming up with ideas, and then they'll go ahead. They'll design 5 or 6 different possible options ready to drop them in the feed if certain scenarios happen, right? And that all comes down to resources, right? The timing and the relevancy piece is easy, right? It's pretty easy. If you've got the team that are ready to do it, you know that there are certain things that could happen, right? When we were doing stuff last summer and the Suarez Chiellini situation happened, right? We knew that, right, we were looking after a couple of brands at that last World Cup, and we had, at the time, we thought, okay, something could happen. So we created a small piece of content. It looked rough around the edges. We didn't have any time to plan it because, honestly, I don't think anybody thought that Suarez was going to go and bite someone again. But we very quickly put something together. Whilst everyone else was going in on one direction, we took a different direction, and we didn't put any spend into it. We didn't need to do a promoted tweet, and we just used a couple of influencers to push, and within about 3 hours we'd had 1,600 retweets. And that may be considered, you know, for the client, they saw that as one of the most successful pieces of content they've ever done. Did that get anybody signing up to their product and purchasing from them? No, it didn't. So is that considered successful? You know, more people...
For brand awareness, maybe.
Fundamentally, if the objective is brand awareness, then yeah, I mean, that's holy grail. But the objective of our brief that we had been given by the client 3 months before was to get people to play their game, right? So it's, you know, a lot of it comes down to, you know, yes, there are events. Yes, we need to do real-time marketing. We need to be ready. You know, I'd say that everything is real-time now. If you're involved in a sport, whether it's officially as a sponsor or you're looking to ambush, and you're not doing some form of immediate real-time marketing, then you may as well just stop sponsoring that sport, right? That the whole point is that we've been looking at real-time marketing in the form of pitch side banner advertising for 15 years, right? And the difference is now we're saying that you can send someone a call to action. You can say from that, you know, from within the pitch, people are looking at watching the TV, they see a banner advertisement, it tells them to act, right? And we can do the exact same without needing to be at the game within social. So
it's very interesting. Very interesting what you are saying. Actually, I have an image here that I would like to share. With you. So this is a tweet of the CEO of Twitter. After the fight between Mayweather and Pacquiao. So the winner was Periscope, and actually what we are seeing now, it's people live streaming what is happening at the pitch, what is happening at the pavilion. And also we have, do you agree with this so just let me show you the image. So imagine Major League Baseball have allowed live streaming apps, but the National Hockey League has not, as forbidden. What do you think? Do you think that organizations, sports properties, the clubs, when they are playing home, do they must they allow people to live stream? Must they allow people to really to distribute content from their mobile devices or not? What do you think of this?
I think the rights holders have the rights to decide on whether or not people can pirate their footage. That's the whole point of being a rights holder, is that you sell your rights to the highest bidders, and if people are taking your content and putting it out there illegally, and people are paying for it, all it takes is for me to be, I'm a sponsorship manager at a football club, and one of my lead sponsors messages and says, what the hell is going on with this Periscope? You need to act. What am I going to do when they're paying me X amount of millions a year, right? Mm-hmm. It takes a round table between the rights holder, the governing body, the brand, and the media platform to come together and work out a solution. I think we've been seeing this in Vine for a couple of years now, of people stealing content, and Vine really, Twitter, do they want to do anything about it? I'd probably say no, because it's strengthening their platform. Are the Premier League clamping down on it? No, they're not. But now we're getting into territories where people can be live streaming for longer than 6 seconds, and it becomes a problem. So I would say, look, the rights holders, it's up to them, and it's down to how much money they think that they could be losing in the long term. Because, put it this way, if looking at a live stream previously via somewhere like, whether it was a Ustream legally or whether it was an illegal streaming of a broadcast, if that was a problem, then this is massive, right? So I think in the short term,
do you think it's a game changer, or this is the game changer?
I think Periscope and Meerkat are it's not revolution, it's more evolution, right? We've been looking at live streaming for years. This isn't new, but now they've dropped it into the social graph, and they've gone straight into Twitter, which has become the live messaging platform, particularly for sports anyway. It is the sports social network. I think what we're seeing now is that they are changing the way in which people engage with brands and engage with their audiences. Where I see these being real success stories is probably in retail. If you look at those TV channels like QVC, where they advertise products on TV, and they'll stand there and they'll say, right, for the next hour we're selling you this watch, or we're selling you this jumper. That being thrown straight into Twitter and saying, right, for the next 5 minutes there's an Omega watch on sale. We have 100 to give away, and these are only exclusive for people that are watching on Periscope. That is where retail is gonna have some success. When it comes to sports and this, this is exploiting rights that are very expensive, and I think it's a problem. I think there are a lot of legal issues in there. We haven't had any, and we haven't actually begun using these platforms yet, because a lot of our clients, I'd say that they're maybe in their infancy. Mm-hmm. So I won't be able to speak firsthand, but from what I've seen, I'd say it's going to be a short-term issue, but maybe a long-term opportunity.
Yeah, definitely. We have a question here about Twitter from José Valenzuela, I believe. So he says, "Hi Luca, now Twitter will allow the user to buy tickets directly from Twitter. Is it good or bad from the perspective of the Twitter user?" And he also asks, after Twitter changed their algorithm and introduced the paid ads, is it more difficult to engage with customers?
Okay, so hey Jose. The whole team is saying hello to you. Jose used to work with us.
Great.
So look, any way that you can effectively drop your end strategy, which is obviously some kind of conversion, any time of monetary value transaction, straight into the social graph, it's a win-win, right? If you can allow people to purchase, whether it's download an app, buy a product, or purchase a ticket straight from a platform where they're comfortable, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, then it's excellent, right? Because effectively the whole point of social media is to keep people engaged in social, right? Too many brands are doing what I mentioned earlier, is that they push, they drop content, and they use Twitter and Facebook for distribution. And it's not. Social is not for distribution, right? Use use pay-per-click advertising for distribution, but social is for harnessing community, and it's for pull. It's not push, it's pull. It's bring them closer to you and keep them in a place where they're comfortable. So yeah, so to the first question, yes, I think anything like that is great. The algorithm of what was the question? It was around paid media.
Yeah, it was around paid media. Just let me check again. So after Twitter changed their algorithm and introduced the paid ads, is it more difficult to engage with the customers?
100%. Look, the only strategy that all of these platforms have to monetize is advertising, right? If you look at, in history, Facebook has become a paid platform, right? Twitter will become the next fully paid platform. And for any brands who don't want to spend on paid media, they need to be a little bit more ambitious. They need to stop being dinosaurs, and they need to say, hey, okay, Facebook and Twitter is safe. We've had that for the last couple of years. We now, instead of stop complaining about Facebook cutting organic reach, they need to look at Snapchat. They need to look at Instagram. They need to look at the platforms that haven't yet taken away organic reach, where there are smaller communities, but they are organic, right? That's where they need to be looking. That's where they need to put their attention, because Facebook, if you have 1.5 billion people on your platform and you have all of that data, then why would you not charge it out at the highest price? We've seen Facebook prices, cost per click, go through the roof. They are now, they started off at less than 10 cents for a conversion. They're now range between $2 and $4, right? So you look at that and you think that's only going to get more expensive, right? So you have to say, yes, Twitter will become 100% paid. And you have to say it's going to make it much harder to engage, of course, depending on how deep your media budgets are. What we've seen is that in 2014, the digital budget rose to 35% on average. So what we'd like to be able to see is that the media agencies, who generally control the TV, the press, the print, and the outdoor budgets, they're going to be stripped back by their brands, and they're going to say, hey, we're going to be putting a hell of a lot more spend from this £1 million that we were spending on TV and X Factor to spending it within Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, because they know that the attention that they can get within those platforms is going to be far greater.
Definitely. So Luca, last question. So what suggestions can you give for someone that wants to start a career in digital with a focus on the sports business sector?
Well, I would say that there are a lot of different opportunities, right? Anybody that wanting to start their own business needs to, firstly, they need to have the passion for the environment first, right? Passion is everything. Passion is what gets you up in the morning. It's what will allow you to do consecutive 4 hours sleep a night. Then, ideas are rubbish, right? Ideas on their own are rubbish. It's all about execution, right? It's
funny, just let me interrupt. It's funny that yesterday I was watching a video of Gary Vee, and he was saying exactly the same. Yeah, because you can have a lot of ideas, but if you don't execute them, they are just ideas.
Hold on 1 second.
Yeah, not a problem. So Luke is returning. All right, here he is again. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, he talks the same. He talks the same language, but
yeah.
Look at that, signed.
Oh, very good.
Me and Gary go way back.
Very nice.
I mean, fundamentally, anybody wanting to start a business, they need to have thick skin. They need to be passionate, and they need to be willing to put in the hard work and execute. I'd say, what I've noticed is that a lot of the younger generation, which are native to technology, don't have necessarily, especially in the UK, the same drive and ambition that we see coming out of the US, right? The US culture is a lot more driven. I think where they've got a lot more success stories in technology. You think of London, you think of maybe what Silicon Roundabout and the Old Street Shoreditch area, but there are very few success stories coming out of there. So I'd say it's difficult here. Worldwide, I just say, look, generically, if you have a good idea and you can raise some capital to create an MVP, which is the minimum viable product, to build something that allows you to get a few hundred users to prove the concept, you can take that to an investor. And the good part is that we're in an investor-rich landscape right now, where it doesn't really matter if you have an award-winning idea. It doesn't really matter if you have the next Facebook, right? Investors want to believe in people that are coming up with innovative ideas, and they can disrupt the market. I would say that you need to look at. I've built a business that's based on service, and one of our strategies for the next couple of years is to develop more product. So where we are fundamentally, we want to build product because a SaaS model allows us to sell subscriptions, allows us to retain data, allows us to do all those kind of things that we offer to our clients, and we advise them on. We need to be able to own in that data, because if we don't own the data, and if we don't own the relationship with our client, then we're only one end of a contract away from the business being the business and the valuation going downwards. So it's important for us as a service business to constantly be looking at how we can build product and how we can build value.
Definitely. Lucas, so this is the end. So 40 minutes of pure hard work. So thank you so much for being here with us, sharing your life experience. I can say not only your work experience, but also your life experience, your hustle, if I can say that.
Yep.
So Lucas, thank you so much again. Don't know if you have some final words.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you, Marcos, for the invite. It was thoroughly entertaining, and thank you to everyone for coming in and watching. Feel free you can hit me up directly on Twitter. I'm at I am Luca. The company We Play is at We Play Co on Twitter, and we've just launched today our new website, which is very exciting because we're 2.5 years old, and the current website is it was a little bit dated. So now go to weplay.co, weplay.co, and check us out. Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay, so Luca, thank you again. Thank you guys for watching, and see you soon. Bye.
Cheers, guys.